Are you in the market for a new car at the moment? Especially, I don't know, with fuel prices going up and the uncertainty of that, a lot of people going, oh gosh, I wish I'd bought an electric car earlier, or at least an EV or a hybrid or something. That may be literally saving my budget at the moment. But honestly, it's a case of be careful what you wish for. Sometimes you might get other things bundled in with the deal, and concerns internationally in particular about Chinese electronic cars and some of their surveillance capacity. Joining me on the program now from Pillar, Protecting Individual Life, Liberty and Rights, Arian, Tashakkori, kia ora, thanks for your time today.
Good morning, Andrew.
This spy cars kind of stuff, it does sound a little bit like science fiction, although we have the tech for this now and maybe we've had it for some time. What are the concerns on this one, Arian?
Well, thank you. Certainly. The main concern really is that no longer in this 21st century world, cars are no longer just motors with wheels on them.
Yep.
These are essentially, as experts around the world are saying, and as people who have electric cars, these are computers on wheels, and they're connected. They're connected to different towers. They're connected, they're electronic devices. And one of the main concerns is that if you're in these cars, they have cameras. If you connect your phone to these cars, they can access a lot of your personal data. They have, as I said, cameras, chips. And essentially, one of the concerns that we're having is they're essentially tools for surveillance here in New Zealand.
So they're able to capture information, and we can see why this tech might be useful. That's hands-free tolls because, hey, it knows who you are, where you've been, etc. But, of course, there is the shadow side of that. Are cars able to not only collect data but also transmit it? Are they interactive with the web?
Oh, absolutely. In the same way that your phone is able to do that, a lot of these cars actually require access to the manufacturer in the long term to be able to continuously update their features. Again, this is not just hardware that's functioning now. These cars have so much built-in software that requires consistent updating that they do actually need to be connected and online to the manufacturer, and in the case of Chinese vehicles, they'll be connected to databases in China to be able to continue to provide the access and the functions of that vehicle.
So it is data collection, of course, location, it knows where you've been, it's able to track that, there's cameras involved. Talk to us about kill switches, because that's another potentially risky area in terms of national security.
That's right. It's interesting that it's not just these Chinese-made electric vehicles that have these kill switches, which essentially means that someone outside of New Zealand is able to push a button and just demobilize you. The car will stop moving. But it's not, as I say, it's not just cars. We've had this issue be raised with electric buses. Auckland has got, as far as I know, a new fleet of electric buses, Chinese made. Similar concerns were raised. I don't know if you remember, we have the Cook Strait ferries that are being commissioned to be built by the Chinese. It is my understanding that NZSIS, our security intelligence services, are involved in that procurement because of threats around kill switches. So if you imagine our entire fleet infrastructure and transport infrastructure has, if we have a lot of these Chinese-built cars, if they have extensive kill switches around them, in a time of conflict or potential tension, this could be significant leverage by our quote-unquote enemies, potentially.
And this is the big question. I know this is perhaps a similar question to Huawei phones and watches and other Huawei devices that they were essentially kicked out of America, concerns about government employees having them here in New Zealand. Is this essentially the same concerns but upgraded to vehicles?
Yeah, no doubt. In 2018, the GCSP, which is our kind of the cybersecurity arm of our intelligence services, came out and said, hey, Spark, who was going to basically build out their 5G towers and networks, you're not allowed to procure your equipment from Huawei.
Yeah.
And so that precedent was already set, even though the Huawei equipment was much cheaper. The GCSP came out and said, look, it is cheaper, but there is no price that you can put on national security. And so if that precedent is already set, it is appropriate that we draw similar lines here, and that, hey, this is very similar in terms of the scenario.
This is the thing, really, because they are much cheaper, and it's the same for Chinese electronic vehicles. Hey, can't afford to get a Tesla. This looks like it's almost as good as a Tesla. In some ways, the features are even better, and it is a fraction of the price. It'll be tempting, not just for government procurement agencies, but also the average New Zealander to say, hey, look, I'm between a rock and a hard place with petrol prices. This looks like a good option.
That's right. Well, one of the concerns and one of the reasons we brought this to light at this time is because obviously we have this fuel crisis, we have this energy crisis where diesel is almost at the peak of it. Diesel does doubled, and petrol is up 40%, and so there is this pressure on households to find alternatives. And I know people are looking at alternatives in terms of EVs. Now, part of that is saying, look, people should have the right to choose whatever vehicle they want, but it's important that we make an informed decision. And so we just want to put it out there that there is threats to these vehicles, privacy threats, and it's been recognized internationally. One of the things we should recognize in terms of price is that I would say these are artificially quite low prices. The Chinese government has invested $230 billion across 15 years, and a lot of these incentives and subsidies still continue for these companies. So they're artificially low prices, which means they're able to flood the market with these vehicles.
And like all things online, honestly, if it's free or it's too good to be true, you're the product in this one, that's right. Very much the case. One thing I like to push back though on, Arian, is this just Chinese cars? Because for some people they're saying, why are we picking on the Chinese? Because honestly, Tesla, for example, just to pick another example, electronic car manufacturer, they have the same type of surveillance capabilities that are put in for safety purposes, and there's other parts of the world that also make them. I'm not sure that I trust Elon Musk any less than the Chinese government. Nothing personal, Elon, but in terms of somebody who is very, very rich and has been collecting people's data for who knows why, is this just a Chinese car problem, or is this more broadly around concerns about electronic vehicles?
We can look at this at two levels. You're totally right. Of course, all electronic vehicles or electric vehicles pose this threat of data gathering and security issues, and that's completely fine. And so when it comes to the normal consumer, the vast majority of the public, we just want them to make that informed decision whether they're buying a Chinese vehicle or not. One thing we should consider as New Zealand as a whole is that if, in the past year, just this year alone, I should say, 52% of all electronic vehicles that have been bought have been Chinese made. And so if we do build out a huge fleet in New Zealand in our transport infrastructure that is Chinese owned, then we kind of give away a lot of leverage. So that's one thing to consider. One is just people making informed decisions. But sure, yes, the Americans can have access to our data as well if we buy a Tesla. The other part of it is America, Europe, the UK, they don't pose a strategic threat to New Zealand's national security in the same way that the People's Republic of China does. And so when it comes to government agencies, such as our defense and security agencies, that might be a different discussion, and that's one of the discussions we're having at Pillar, is saying, look, Americans have done it, the Israelis have done it, the British just this past week or the past couple of weeks have been asking themselves, hey, maybe our defense and security agencies shouldn't be driving these vehicles when China is our number one threat in terms of geopolitically. And so that's two different discussions, I think.
So this is what's happening internationally, and some concerns raised by our allies. How should we respond in New Zealand? I know you've written a letter to Chris's Bishop and Penk with their respective portfolios saying, hey, is this something that you're looking at? Any response from the government at this point?
We haven't heard back. I think that was towards the end of last week. We sent that letter, and so we're looking to hear back. But essentially, as I said, the Canadians are having a discussion about this very issue. The Americans have already taken steps and imposed tariffs on this. Now, part of that is because they have their own automotive industries, and so part of it is economic. But they've been very clear to say
and tariffs, to be fair, in terms of US responses on tariffs, I'm not sure it's a national security issue. I suppose for the folks at home, though, it's still tempting